All right, you guys, we are going to be talking about the Mexican Revolution today. Your essential question: what were the causes of the Mexican Revolution? And who were the major leaders during this revolution? So, you should have your Cornell notes open. They should already be titled for you Mexican Revolution. And once again, the essential question is: what were the causes and who were the leaders? So, just a quick reminder, on the left side of your Cornell note sheets, you are putting your main ideas, any questions that come up, and any vocabulary terms. On the right side, you are taking notes on what you see as most important, and that is going to be on the right side, along with any answers to questions throughout the PowerPoint and any vocabulary definitions. All right, so quick background. You guys, please remember that at one point in time, Mexico was not actually Mexico. It was a land that was occupied by the Aztec, Olmec, and the Mayan, as well as your Toltec. Okay? Mexico does eventually fall to the Spanish with Hernan Cortez taking claim with the conquistadors. All right? So please remember that Mexico was once ruled by the Spanish. Once the Spanish take control of this territory, they do send people over, and those Spanish blood, pure blood, become known as your Peninsulares, and they are going to be your wealthy elite. Even after Spanish rule and Mexican independence, they still have most of the political power, wealth, and land in Mexico. Keep in mind that majority of this population is mestizo. So majority of the population in Mexico is not pure Spanish blood, but instead mestizo. So you guys should hopefully remember the term mestizo. Can anyone tell me what is mestizo? In the chat box, go ahead and drop it. All right, so mestizo is the mixture of native and Spanish blood. So this is where you have someone who is of pure Spanish blood who ends up marrying or having a child with a Native American. They are going to then have their child and it will be considered mestizo. Okay? Mestizo, once again, is the mixture of Native and Spanish blood. Majority of your population in Mexico is mestizo, not pure Spanish. They're not that wealthy elite. So the causes that lead up to this are quite a few different things, all right? First off, you have Diaz, who was a dictator and put himself in control as president, but he had been ruling for over 30 years. And in that 30 years, there had been several different conflicts and several different processes where Mexico had not returned to the elite status that it once was before the Mexican American War, okay? You also have the exploitation of mestizo workers as farmers and those poor people who own some land actually had their land taken away from them because Diaz had put in an economic program to help escalate Mexico. However, the wealthy elite, those pure Spanish blood, did not lose their land. And instead, they took the mestizos on as workers and they paid them poorly and they treated them terrible. So you also have a growing gap where the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. In addition to that, you have the United States who is pushing for democracy, and the Monroe Doctrine is pushing for democracy throughout the Western Hemisphere. They're telling Europeans and communists to not intervene in Latin America and that the United States would step in. So you have several countries who jump into action because of this, and they successfully bring democracies. However, Mexico does this very differently and with more bloodshed. So some of the leaders or important people to know during this time period are Porfirio Diaz, Francisco Madero, James Krellman, who is a American newsman who actually writes about how Diaz had been in control. And because of his writings and him pushing and saying that Mexico is ready for a democracy, Madero actually steps up and decides that he is also going to run. You have Zapata who steps in as well, Villa and Herta and Juana, all of these people pushing to make change politically so that Mexico can be considered an elite country again instead of still kind of being in the shadow and the despair of what happened after the Mexican American War and after the French actually tried to reconquer them and make them a colony. During this time, though, you see some things that start to happen that are abnormal to what normally happens throughout history. There are women taking up arms during the Mexican Revolution. So these soldaderas or female soldiers, they actually go to the front lines. They fight side by side next to these men. In addition to that, they're cooking, they're cleaning, and they're taking care of what's considered domestic affairs while still fighting for independence. Okay? So, you guys, this war does start out, or this push for independence does start out because Madero, who is a wealthy elite, feels like it's time for change. However, that large population, as they're listening to him say it's time for change, they absolutely agree with him as well. So those mestizos, those farmers, and those poor people who have lost their land, they pick up arms and they fight for their change and for their justice in their country. So some of the biggest effects, they successfully overthrow Diaz. He no longer serves as president, and then they go back and they make changes to the Constitution, changing the term year for a president to 6 years maximum. They also create different political parties so that people can run up against each other. You guys, these are similar to our Democratic and Republican parties, okay? Except they are their PRI and their PAN. In addition to this, several artists and painters took this opportunity to document what was going on with this war and this massive movement, and they created murals throughout the city exposing themselves as well as the feelings and the beliefs of the citizens in Mexico. However, despite the war or the Constitution and this revolution officially coming to somewhat of an end, violence does continue for several years going, and the political structure does still suffer some in Mexico. This is an example of one of the murals that was painted depicting so many of the things that were going on throughout Mexico. And murals actually become a big thing. If you guys ever go to any of the major cities, you see them showing that culture and displaying their history through art. And that is all that I have for you guys today for Mexican Revolution. Please make sure to save these notes and then get them uploaded into your e-binders. If you have any additional questions, please hit me up on Remind 101 or ask them during class. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.